Good morning, everyone, and welcome. I'm Helen Jäknegren, Director of Supply Quality and Development for GCAN Aerospace. And my plan today was to introduce you to a quick overview of the content of AS13100. So, as Denise talked about, the creation of this standard was really to take all the OEM's requirements, map them out, together with other requirements, and harmonize them and put them into 13100. In parallel, we already had 5-6 different already released standards, AS13002, 3, 4, and 6. So we took the key shells, the important things, and we also put them into AS13100. So now you will follow 13100, and the other ones will be retired, except for one, that is the DPRV 13001 that still remains. There were some unique requirements, as Denise talked about. They are still in the engine maker's specific requirements, or for instance, GCAN requirements. We're going to talk more about them later. And we also have the reference manual, 13 yellow books of good practices and help for you, free of charge to just download. Of all of this, we reduced approximately the number of requirements with over 50%. So we think we started off quite good, actually. The content or the structure of 13100 is mainly 3 different chapters. Chapter A is more or less 9100 ISO 9100 requirements that we have added some requirements to. So the structure that you will find is that you, for instance, have a chapter in AS9100 called 9.3 Management Review, and you will find in 13100 the additional requirements for that section in AS9100 under the same chapter. So it should be easier to implement in your facility. Chapter B is all about APQP and PPAP and is the additional requirements to AS9145. There are some, not a lot, but they are defined in that chapter. And then finally, Chapter C, that is all about the requirement and the tools that is needed to support Chapter B. So Chapter A applies more or less to everyone. By B and C also do that, but with the APQP twist on it. So we talked about the customer-specific requirements. What shall remain in these are, of course, the requirement that everyone should follow, 13100, signpost customer-specific documents, definition of customer-specific acceptance thresholds, other specific requirements that a customer have, perhaps key roles or other roles that is important for the connection with that specific OEM, and of course the unique IT interface requirements, since not every OEM has the same IT system. So, does then all of AS13100 apply to everyone? Well, it depends on the type of supplier that you are and the type of products that you supply. So I thought of spending a bit of time to make sure that this is clear for everyone. So you need to determine what type of organization you are, and that depends on the type of products that you supply. You might be several different types in the same organization. Then, if you're not clear about that, you need to agree the type with your customer, and then you can, by that type, identify the requirements that is applicable for your products and your organization, and finally deploy. So to help you identify what kind of supplier you are, you can go in Appendix B in 13100. So here are some examples, what it looks like. For instance, if you manufacture or assemble at least one part defined by the customer, perhaps a casting or a forging or a machine part, you are a type 1 make to print, most probably. If you manufacture something to your own proprietary drawings that you have designed yourself, you are probably a design-make supplier. If you provide parts but actually do not add any value to it, you are probably a distributor, and so on. So this will help you understand what requirements applies to you, because when you know that, you go into table 1 in 13,100, and there you will find a small X's that tells you what paragraph is applicable for your type of organization. So now we will test you then. So please take up your Slido again. And I have a question for you. Which organization type best describes your organization? Please help us out to understand that. Can I guess that we have a lot of MTU people here today? Okay. Some process houses and some others. Okay, and no design only, no distributors. And raw material, unfortunately, we can't see here, but perhaps we have a couple of raw material suppliers, typically bar, sheet, and similar. Okay, I think we stop there, but welcome MTU, design and manufacture. And I'm glad to see actually that this was the result, because we've had a bit of a problem that if you do your own kind of production drawing, some suppliers have identified them as design make, and that is not the intent. So, great. Let's continue then. We have talked already a lot about the benefits. I won't stay at this slide for a very long time, but I think we have proven that we actually were able to align on a lot of requirements, not all, but a lot. We have the manual, reference manuals. That is really great. Please read them, because they are great. We will see less and less of OEM requirements, I really hope. We will continue to merge and try to harmonize as much as possible. We will have common language for things. In GKN, for instance, we interact with all OEMs, a lot of customers. It's a lot of different words that almost means the same. That creates a lot of energy loss, so to say. We will talk more about how it aligns to other standards. We have, of course, the approved training resources, and I saw one of our really good trainers here visiting us today. It will also help us all to have the baseline for future supply development, because if we all are aligned on what is required, then we can actually also help each other develop. And supply development also always goes both ways. Probably the customer needs to be developed too sometimes. So let's talk quickly about the content on an overview level. As we said, we have merged in the content of the already existing standards. We have referred to a lot of standards that is already out there, from IAQG, to try to align as much as possible. Of course, we recognize NEDCAP as an approved certification. We have integrated human factor as a really important section of this standard. We have agreed on certification requirements for the supply base, which hopefully enables and makes things clearer and easier for everyone. We have also created a compliance assessment, and Jim Wilson will talk a bit more about this later, because we do feel that that needed to be enhanced and have more details and help you better to become compliant to the standard. We have introduced 4 different audit types and also been very clear about the audit certification or competence requirements. We also have 2 mandatory trainings that we're going to talk more about today. One of them is a great training called Quality Foundation Training that is mandatory to go through. And we expect on-the-job training. We talk about common record retention requirements. We ask for DFMEA. We call out the FOD prevention standard, and we put a lot of effort into enhancing how you, as a supplier, control your suppliers. Counterfeit goods, an increasingly big issue for the industry. We ask for spectrometry, handheld spectrometry, to identify the raw material if there is any kind of risk that it might be blended or mixed before used. We expect a supplier to use the customer input and scorecards as input to the improvement activity. And not least, we are expecting 80 as a problem-solving method for key issues. So that's the essence of Chapter 1. And then we have Chapter B and C. We have relied a lot on AS9145 and been engaged in develop that standard too. But we have made sure that we have inputted some of the requirements that we feel warmly is needed to really be managing risk. And that is the pre-launch control plan, the supplier risk management process, but we also introduce some more quality tools that we expect to be used, like the DFMEA I talked about, initial manufacturing performance studies, and the dimensional and non-dimensional results. We also have introduced different level of submission based on the supplier's performance, so you can actually end up in a PPAP submission where you don't really need to submit anything more than the approval sheet, but you can also be asked to have the customer witness everything that you have done. So that is based on performance. This is expected from us all in new production introduction, product and design changes, and source changes going forward. Finally, the supporting reference manuals, and we talked a lot about them. So I will say it again, you find them on the AESQ homepage. They are really good, they are free, and they are developed by our SMIG, subject matter interest group teams, really seasoned and good experts within areas. There are several here in this room today that you can reach out to. And they constantly are working with this. So we have a lot of people involved in listening to your comments, questions, and your ask for help to improve these even further. We are working on a revision A of 13,100. It's not a super big revision, but we wanted to make sure that all the comments that we got on this standard from you the last kind of year or 9 months is taken care of. So we want to tell you how important your input has been, and now we're working it in. We have a target date for publication in the year end this year. So we made some clarifications, spelling, grammar, and suggested improvements has been included. So we are working diligently to get it out there as soon as possible. With that, I thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any of the AESQ members about that. And by that, I'd like to introduce Usam and Jim talking about the deployment status. Thank you.